So today we'll be looking at Google Analytics. And this is actually something I've been looking forward to because as a content marketer, the first time I checked out analytics, I was completely overwhelmed by everything they're presenting. And one thing I was asking myself is, okay, I see all this data. What can I do with it? How can I transform it into something more actionable? And that's exactly what Sam is going to talk about today.
Okay, so we're going to dive into analytics from the perspective of someone who has just installed Google Analytics on their website and done nothing else. So if you run a blog, a content website, just anything that you've sort of launched and you've heard that you need to add Google Analytics to your website, that's where we're starting from. Just some basic reports, some quick things you can look at to really understand how your website is doing. There's three things I focus on. So it's acquisition, behavior, and conversions. And for those of you that don't really know what those terms mean or have heard them but are unclear, it's really simple. Acquisition is how people are getting to your website. That can be from a variety of sources. It could be, for example, Google organic search. It could be from Facebook or other social media. It could be referrals from other websites that link to you. So it's really good for just understanding how people come to your website and where they're coming from. Behavior is what they do once they're on the website. It'll show you what pages are being viewed. It'll show you how long they're on the page, and it'll show you how many sessions you're getting, just sort of general overviews of what happens once they're there. Conversions is also really important. It does involve setting up a few different goals in analytics. So if you've just installed analytics, you might not find any data in there. But conversions are just actions that you want a viewer to take once they're on the website. A few examples would be downloading a PDF if you're offering some sort of ebook on your website. Could be signing up for a newsletter or email list, or it could be purchasing something on the website. Okay, so in the overview, we just get a quick snapshot of our top channels. We get a view of the users. I like looking at a longer time period for this user so we can see the overall trend. It's increasing, which is awesome. And then down below, we just have a simple snapshot of the total acquisition by channel. And then in this case, the bounce rate, which is when people view a page and then just leave immediately. So you can actually see that there's a different bounce rate for different channels. People who are coming in through social tend to leave the most. So perhaps that's a sign that where we link to ourselves on social media, we can actually change the landing page that they're going to and try to get this bounce rate down. So that's really it for the overview. If you look at one thing and just want quick insights, just look here. Look to see how your traffic is going and look to see where your traffic is coming from. So we'll dive into some more of the reports now under the acquisition section. Here we are in the sourced medium section under acquisition for all traffic. This is simply a list of all the places your traffic is coming from. We're showing 10 rows here. You can go and look at more rows down here, but this is going to show you the top 10 by number of users. So it shows you the source and medium. Source is the actual website or web property that someone is coming from. So you can see it's Google, Reddit, Bing, so on. Medium is more like a channel of how they're getting there. So you'll see, for example, Google and Bing are both organic. They're just search engines and people came in through the search. You'll also, for example, see sometimes if you're running paid traffic, Google/CPC or /paid. If I had to focus on three columns in this, I would focus on users, which is just the number of people coming to your website. So you can see, for example, we're getting about double the traffic for Google organic than we're getting from the Newscatcher API. Bounce rate, this is a really important metric of engagement for a website. It's going to be people that interact with only one page on your site. They take no action and then they just leave. So in other words, it's a really good measure of someone who is not that interested and they're not finding your website very engaging. That's generally speaking. Bounce rate could also be a sign that they found all the information they needed and then just left. So for example, say your website has a calendar of events coming up. Someone may have bookmarked that calendar and then they just go there, look to see what events are coming up, and they don't need any more information, so they leave. That would be an example of a bounce. So when you're looking at bounce rate, it's important to kind of keep in mind what page they're on as well. We'll get more into that in the behavior section. What sticks out about bounce rate here is that it's different for different traffic channels. Google Organic has a pretty low bounce rate compared to the Newscatcher API. So, for whatever reason, people who are coming in through Google Organic are finding more to do on the website and they're going to more pages on the website.
Right, that makes sense. So, using these columns and what you explained about source medium, what's something actionable I can do?
Are you posting to Reddit yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, so since you're posting to Reddit yourself, you have a lot of control over what is being posted. So you can see that your bounce rate for Reddit is fairly high relative to some other traffic sources, primarily for Google Organic. So what you could do is you could create a new landing page specifically for Reddit, and you can try to tailor your content to someone who is coming from that site. What's an example of a link you would post on Reddit to yourself?
It would be just the homepage.
Okay, yeah. So the homepage is going to have a lot of general information. You might want to have something more targeted. So you can say, for example, to a programming subreddit, you can talk about the API that you made, and you can link directly to stuff that's more relevant to code and the API rather than linking to a page that's going to cover all of your content. Here, we're going to very quickly look at the referrals tab under traffic, and then that is actually going to cover it for the acquisition portion of this. So one other really useful feature of Google Analytics is that it lets you do comparisons. So we've only been looking at the last 30 days, which gives us a measure of what's happening, but it doesn't give us a measure of the change in performance of our site over time. So what we can do is we can go to this calendar and we can compare to the previous period. So we're going to compare the last 30 days to the 30 days before that and see how our referral traffic has changed. So you can see right away in this table that our traffic from referrals has gone up by 300%, which is awesome. It's telling us that strategies we're using to get traffic from partners is working. And you can tie an action that you've taken to build traffic to performance just by looking at a date comparison. Here we are under the behavior tab, under the overview. This again just gives you a general overview of the performance of your site. So it has page views, which is pretty much what it says. It's how many times a page has been viewed. Unique page views, which is the number of users viewing pages. Average time on page. And again, we have the compare feature on, so we can see the changes in these over time.
I'm actually really starting to appreciate the comparison feature. It's not something I had enabled by default previously while looking at my analytics, but now I'm seeing just how useful it is.
Exactly. For example, for average time on page, you have an average time on page of 1 minute and 20 seconds. But if you didn't have the comparison, that wouldn't really tell you much, and you wouldn't be able to tie it back to actions that you've taken to improve your website. But because we have the comparison on, we can see that our average time on page has increased 61% by 30 seconds. And that's really good. So one other thing you can do is when you know that you've made a change to your website, you can go to the date picker and you can start at the date where you've made the change and compare it to the previous period so that you can tie the change in numbers to that change on your website. I'm going to scroll down here and we'll just look at some of the pages. That's the last real thing in here. This just shows you what pages are performing the best on your site. So you have the most page views for the homepage up about 150% month over month. Pricing has increased by 300%. That's really good. It means people are actually interested in viewing what your product offers and signing up for it. So that's a really good insight you can just see right away from the dashboard. One of my favorite reports in Google Analytics, just in the default analytics, is the landing pages report. A landing page is simply what page people are entering your site on. So you're primarily going to see the homepage as the main landing page, but here we can see that people are actually also landing right on the Extractor API pricing page. So let's actually just click in to Extractor API pricing here. Okay, so this is just what we looked at before. The graph up here has changed to only show that page. What we can do is, since we're filtered to this page, we can hit source right here under primary dimension. And that will show us where the traffic to that page is coming from. It's interesting that you're getting a lot more direct traffic to the pricing page. That could happen sometimes when you're just testing out to see if it works and hitting it manually a bunch. It could also happen if there is a bad link to the pricing page and someone has to copy and paste it into their search bar. Interestingly, it's good that you're getting more traffic from Google to your pricing page. It likely means that the SEO for that page is doing a lot better. Another cool feature under the behavior tab is the behavior flow, which gives you a good visual representation of how people interact and navigate through your website. I'm going to turn off the comparison feature for this, and we're just going to look at how people have interacted with the site over the last 30 days. So for people starting on the homepage, a good chunk of traffic is immediately going to the extractor API pricing page. That's really good on the surface in that people are interested in the product, seeing what is available, or they're interested in signing up for a free account. However, we can see that the third page is back to the homepage. And that's a little concerning to me because it's a sign that people are not finding the information they want to see on the Extractor API pricing page. They're not taking the action that we want them to take to sign up for a free account or purchase the product. Instead, they're going back to the homepage and looking for more info. So that means that we can change the content on the pricing page. We can add more calls to action, or we can add more benefits of the program. Or that means that we can push them to another page on our site that has more information about the pricing and product.
A great tool for inspecting what people are doing on the page itself is HotJar. And actually, Sam and I went over how to use HotJar specifically for this use case. So you could check that out in the description below.
That's the perfect use case for Hotjar, actually. I'm just saying what I think is happening, but Hotjar will let us actually see what people are doing on the website and where they're going, what they're reading, and so on. Here we are in the conversion section of analytics under the goals overview. We haven't set up any goals for this website yet because it does take a little bit of fudging with analytics settings and creating the goals. We are going to show that in another video. An example of a goal would be something like creating an account on your website or purchasing a product from the pricing page.
Right. So if someone goes to the Extractor API pricing page and signs up, we can set up a goal to track those signups, right?
Exactly. We'd set up a goal for them creating the account and we'd make sure that it shows up in analytics. So what we can do is make a change to say the copy or layout of the pricing page and see how that impacts the number of people signing up for accounts.
So when you have the goal set up and you could see how many people signed up, what do you do with that information?
The most useful thing, in my opinion, is actually to go back to the previous reports that we looked at and view your goals in there. So let's go back to the acquisition report and I'll show you something really cool you can do with goals. We're back in the source medium report with a comparison on again. So once we have goal tracking in place, we'll be able to come down here into this conversion section and we'll be able to view the various goals that we've created and we'll be able to see how often they're completed. So in other words, how many accounts are created from different traffic sources. So for example, Reddit is a really good example of this because we control the content that we can post to Reddit. We can control which subreddits it's posted on. So you might find that once you're posting more content and different content, you're getting more signups from that content and you could focus on just posting the best performing content. The key to analytics is being able to focus on certain date ranges before and after you've made changes to your site. That'll help you view different traffic sources and help you understand if your efforts to get traffic to your site are working and if certain channels are worth pursuing. And it'll also help you see which landing pages are most impactful for your site.
Thanks for joining me today and hit subscribe. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments below. Till next time.